I didn't sign up to be your second chance. The first thing I noticed was the sunlight. It slanted across the courtyard like a spotlight. Too warm for the last week of term, too dramatic for a Tuesday. The second thing I noticed was the boy with the bouquet. He stepped out of the streaming crowd as if the bell had rung for him alone, arms wrapped around flowers large enough to hide half his face. And he said my name with the gravity of a confession in a film trailer. Lin Qiao, he announced, voice low and solemn. In this life, I won't make you wait 20 years again. I blinked once, then twice, as if my eyelashes could erase him. 20 years? I was 17. The only thing I'd waited 20 years for was my grandmother's approval, and she still treated it like a limited edition item. Do we have a hidden camera? I asked, because humor is the polite cousin of alarm. And, sorry, who are you? The boy Cheng Yu, according to the school's gossip, later held the bouquet higher, like it could shield him from reality. Behind him, half a step back and half a world away, a girl stood frozen with wet eyes. Her knuckles were white around the strap of her backpack, and her expression had the stunned hurt of someone watching her own story derail. The crowd began to gather, phones rising, voices fizzing. Then the third thing happened. Words appeared in midair, not in the poetic sense, in the literal sense. Thin, translucent text scrolled across my vision like live stream comments, except there was no screen. The lines moved fast, stacked on each other, some with emojis, some with censor stars, as if even this hallucination had moderation. Boyfriend trash, one line said. He reborn and still runs to his white moonlight. Another mocked. Someone slap them, please. A third demanded with the eager cruelty of spectators who think suffering is entertainment. My throat tightened. I had never seen floating text before, and I was not the type to experiment with substances in the middle of school. I shifted my gaze, and the words followed. I looked at Cheng Yu, and new text formed above his head like a label. Reborn male lead. I looked at the trembling girl, and a different label flared. Female lead, awakening arc pending. I looked at myself at my pressed uniform skirt, my polished shoes, the ring of quiet privilege around my name, and the text practically hissed. Villainous supporting role, rich and cruel. That's inaccurate, I muttered. I'd been called a lot of things, but cruel wasn't on the list. My family's world did not reward kindness. True, but it didn't reward cruelty either. It rewarded results, which is a different kind of sin. Cheng Yu stepped closer, eyes shining with melodrama. Qiao, I know you're still angry about last time, he said, but I can change. I'll take you to see the sea of flowers you wanted. I'll move with you to Paris. Whatever you want, I'll give it. I'll stay by your side forever. The comment stream exploded, as if fed by gasoline. He's doing it again. He's using the crowd to trap her. Villainous will accept because she's obsessed. The girl behind him flinched like she'd been slapped by the words no one else could see. I stared at Cheng Yu's bouquet, then at his earnest face, then at the ring of students waiting for a romantic climax they could clip into a 30-second video. I exhaled, and the decision inside me landed clean and hard. I stepped forward, reached over the bouquet, and patted his shoulder the way you'd pat a classmate who forgot their homework. Hey, I said, bright and calm, this isn't a good method. Cheng Yu's eyes widened, startled by the lack of swooning. If both sides willingly do this, it's romance, I continued. If you corner someone in front of a crowd, it's moral kidnapping. And if we're not even close, I tilted my head, then it's emotional harassment. Best case, you're on the school's blacklist. Worst case, your parents get invited for tea with the dean. A ripple of laughter ran through the crowd, uncertain and delighted, as if they'd discovered a plot twist. Cheng Yu's mouth opened, then shut. I smiled politely, the way my etiquette tutor drilled into me. Your feelings are noted, I said, and declined. I lifted a finger as if remembering something. My mother's rule is no dating in senior year. Early love makes you fail exams. Then I leaned in with a conspiratorial whisper loud enough for everyone. Also, the disciplinarian is walking this way. Run now, and please pick up any petals you drop. The cleaning crew didn't sign up to be extras in your drama. I waved and walked away while the crowd processed the fact that I had not become anyone's prize. Behind me, Cheng Yu stood like a statue made of humiliation, and the scrolling text stuttered. Script error? One line asked. Should have accepted. Why is the villainess rejecting? Another line, smaller, almost grudging, said, "That was kind of cool." At the school gate, my driver waited beside a black sedan so glossy it reflected the clouds. The students who liked gossip liked it even more when money joined the frame. I slid into the back seat and pulled my seatbelt as if this was any other day. Only my heart was misbehaving. I stared at my reflection in the window, and the comment stream lingered, faint, like smoke after a fire. I didn't understand the labels, but I understood the danger. If I was seeing a story, then someone had already assigned me a role. I had no intention of performing it. The Lin group raised me on 3 principles. Don't owe anyone, don't lose face, don't leave proof. Those principles built empires and destroyed families, sometimes in the same afternoon. I wasn't an only child. My younger brother Lin Qiao was charming enough to make adults forgive his mediocrity, and my grandmother loved him because he laughed at her jokes. I was useful, which meant my affection came with tasks. "You'll inherit if you can hold it," my father said, as if inheritance were a chair that stayed warm only for the strongest. That was why I studied like I was running from a storm. That was why a boy with flowers was not my priority. By the next morning, Cheng Yu was waiting at the gate with breakfast boxes, and the confident smile of someone who thought persistence was proof of love. "I don't need it," I said. My housekeeper packed breakfasts with macros and brain-boosting nonsense because my family believed in feeding investment. Cheng Yu offered anyway, voice warm. "You used to like sweet buns," he insisted. "Used to, according to what? Another timeline? Another script?" The floating comments returned like a rude acquaintance. "He's so devoted. Why won't she accept? Trash male lead. Female lead is hurting." I looked past him at the girl from yesterday, standing alone by the notice board with her eyes red. Her name, I learned, was Yun Li. Yun Li and Cheng Yu had been childhood friends. The whole class treated them like a preset couple, as if proximity automatically owed romance. Cheng Yu's public confession to me had made Yun Li the tragic victim by default. A week later, rumors labeled me the other woman, which was hilarious because I had done nothing but refuse. Beauty, apparently, was a crime, and refusal was an insult. Cheng Yu didn't care. He kept showing up, and when I finally dragged him into the hallway and told him, very clearly, to stop, he laughed and said, "You're pretending. I know you." Then he delivered the twist he thought would make me fall to my knees. "I'm reborn," he said, hand on his chest like an actor in a historical drama. "I remember my last life. I wasted it. I lost everything. But heaven gave me a second chance, and I won't lose you again. I know the future, Qiao. The next 10 years are mine." The comment stream surged, almost celebratory. "Yes, rebirth trope. He'll get rich. Villainous will profit. Female lead will suffer." I felt my expression go blank, the way it does when a board member says something stupid in a meeting. "Okay," I said. "If you know the future, tell me something useful. Which sectors surge? Which companies dominate? Give me names." Cheng Yu lit up like he'd been invited on stage. He rattled off a list of companies, some not even listed yet, and promised they would shake the financial world. He spoke with the confidence of a man describing weather he believed he could command. I listened, nodded, and then shrugged. "Anyone can lie with conviction," I said. "And even if you're telling the truth, I still can't verify you're reborn." I adjusted my collar, calm. "More importantly, I don't like you." He stared at me as if rejection were a foreign language. The comments screamed at me for being cruel, but I refused to apologize for clarity. We were in grade 12. I was balancing exam pressure with family politics that made school rivalry look like a children's game. I didn't have time to be someone's destiny. I walked away, and Cheng Yu stood there with his flower-scented arrogance curdling into something sharper. A few weeks later, our school held trials for a national science competition. 1 slot, open judging, public ranking. Yun Li and I ended up as the final 2. She sat 1 row over, spine straight, eyes focused, the kind of quiet that comes from deciding to save yourself. I realized, with a strange jolt, that her awakening arc had already begun. She wasn't crying over Cheng Yu anymore. She was building something the world could not steal easily. I respected that. I wanted to beat her, because I wanted to win, but I respected her. When the results posted, my name was not at the top. Yun Li won by a narrow margin. I stood in front of the board, frozen, feeling disappointment land in my stomach like a stone. I had worked hard, slept less, and optimized everything. Losing still stung, even when you believe in merit. Behind me, the comment stream appeared again, gleeful and cruel. Here comes the villainous meltdown. Male lead will save her. Female lead will be bullied. I turned, and there was Chung Yu, marching toward Yun Li like he was about to collect a debt. Yun Li, he said loudly, so the hallway could hear. Give the slot to Lin Qiao. He pointed at me as if I were a prize. She prepared for so long. You'll still get into a good university without this. Don't be selfish. The corridor buzzed. Phones lifted again. Yun Li's face tightened. I prepared too, she said, voice shaking with controlled anger. I won by my own ability. Why should I give it up because you say so? Cheng Yu frowned like a teacher scolding a child. Don't be childish, he said. I'm doing this for Qiao. I owe you in this life, so I'm paying you back with a favor. That's enough. I stepped forward before Yun Li could be forced into tears for the audience. Stop, I said, and my voice carried the way it does when I'm in charge. Cheng Yu looked at me, relief flaring, thinking I'd be grateful. I cut it off. Don't smear my name, I said coldly. I lost. I accept it. Don't act like I need a man to beg for me. That's embarrassing. I glanced at Yun Li. Congratulations. You earned it. Go shine. Yun Li's eyes widened, then her shoulders lowered slightly, as if she'd been bracing for impact and found air instead. I turned back to Cheng Yu and smiled with all the sweetness of a knife in a velvet sleeve. If you have free time, go do past exam papers, I said, or wipe the dust off the notice board while you're at it. Your theatrics are polluting the hallway. Laughter burst from nearby students, sharp and sudden. Cheng Yu's face flushed, then paled, then flushed again, cycling through humiliation like a broken light. From that day on, the rumor machine didn't know what to do with me. I wasn't cooperating. I refused the bouquet, refused the breakfast, refused the rescued by a man scene, and now I refused the bullying arc. The floating comments began to argue with each other, as if the audience couldn't agree on which version of me they wanted. Some called me cold. Some called me queen. I didn't care. I cared about results, and Yun Li cared about results too, which made us strange allies. A month later, I caught Cheng Yu blocking Yun Li on the stairwell. We already tried the wrong path, he murmured, voice intense. Don't keep making mistakes. You're working this hard just to get my attention, aren't you? Yun Li's expression was ice. This is my choice, she said. It has nothing to do with you. Cheng Yu laughed, offended. Then why are you always near me? He snapped. Top of the grade. First prize. Teachers praising you daily. Do you think I don't see your tricks? Yun Li tilted her head, and her mouth curved into a small, deadly smile. Have you considered the opposite? She asked. Maybe your grades are collapsing, and the teacher asked me to sit next to you so you don't fail. Cheng Yu went rigid. Impossible, he said. Because arrogance does not learn easily. The comment stream flickered overhead with censor stars, as if even the universe wanted to swear at him. I walked out from the hallway corner, letting my heels click like punctuation. Yun Li, I called casually. Homeroom teacher wants you in the office. I glanced at Cheng Yu with a look that pretended innocence and delivered judgment. Also, isn't it your cleaning duty today? Do you need help taking out the trash? My eyes held his. Trash, implied. Yun Li's lips twitched with amusement, and she walked away without giving Cheng Yu a single glance. He stood there, face drained, as if he'd been robbed of oxygen. Graduation came like a door slamming. Yun Li ranked first, I ranked second. We both entered top universities. Cheng Yu, despite his future knowledge, barely scraped into a mediocre program. He claimed it didn't matter, because in his last life, the real wealth came from timing, not grades. I stopped hearing him directly after we left school, but the floating comment stream occasionally reappeared like a pop-up ad. It fed me updates, as if I were obligated to care. Yun Li studied biomedical engineering, excelled. Met a man named Jiang Han, heir and CEO of Haoping Holdings, and the internet declared it a perfect ending. Cheng Yu started a company at the right time, made some money, and then, according to the comments, found a girlfriend who was a replacement for me. I stared at that line until nausea rose in my throat, then put my phone down and went back to my work. Life, unlike stories, doesn't pause for romantic justice. I entered the Lin group as an intern on paper and a soldier in practice. My father watched me as if measuring the weight of my spine. Board meetings were quiet wars. My brother smiled through them. charming, and contributed nothing. The older directors loved him anyway, because they loved comfort. I learned to negotiate with people who smiled while sharpening knives. By the time I finished my master's degree, I was already leading a division. The comment stream faded for long stretches, as if the audience lost interest when the plot became spreadsheets and patents. 6 years after graduation, a class reunion invitation arrived in my inbox with a cheerful ping. I was in my penthouse office, city lights beyond the glass like scattered coins. The comment stream returned instantly, loud and excited, as if it had been waiting for this moment. Final face slap scene. Male lead thinks female lead comes back for him. Replacement girl will insult her. Husband arrives. Chaos. I leaned back in my chair and sighed. "So, you're still here?" I murmured to the floating words. They answered by scrolling faster. I almost didn't go. My schedule was brutal. A pharmaceutical acquisition, a regulatory hearing, an internal fight over succession that could have been scripted by demons. But the reunion was in my hometown, and sometimes you return not because you miss the place, but because you want to prove you outgrew it. Besides, Yun Li had become a key researcher in a field my company was investing in. If fate wanted to toss us into the same room again, I could use it. On the morning of the reunion, I chose a fitted champagne-colored dress and heels sharp enough to threaten the floor. My hair fell in soft waves that looked effortless and cost an hour. I studied myself in the mirror for 2 minutes, not out of vanity, but out of habit. Appearance is a language in my world, and I refused to speak it poorly. My driver opened the car door, and the city slid by in polished silence. The comment stream narrated like a sports commentator. "She's coming. She's gonna end them. Get popcorn." I smiled faintly. I didn't need popcorn. I had patience. Inside the hotel ballroom, the air smelled like perfume and nostalgia and cheap champagne. Former classmates laughed too loudly, as if volume could turn time backward. I didn't step in quietly. I entered like someone who had paid for the building. Heads turned. Conversation stalled. Then I heard the shrill voice near the center of the room. "Fake," a girl snapped. "You think you can fool us with a knockoff bag? And you say your husband is Jiang Han? Please, if you're his wife, I'm his mother." I followed the voice and saw Yun Li on the floor. One cheek flushed red. A necklace lay broken beside her. Diamonds scattered like spilled ice. Around her, a circle of people watched with the blank cowardice of a crowd that prefers entertainment to ethics. Cheng Yu stood above Yun Li with that familiar posture of borrowed authority, and beside him clung a girl with glossy makeup and a face that resembled mine only in the way a cheap copy resembles art. Similar outline, no soul. The comment stream shrieked. "Replacement girl is here. Male lead makes her kneel. Husband will arrive. Wait for it." I didn't wait. My heels struck the floor with a sound that cut through the ballroom. I stopped at the edge of the circle. "Who," I asked calmly, "is bullying my friend?" The room went quiet in a way that felt physical. Yun Li looked up, surprise flashing through exhaustion. Cheng Yu turned toward me with a smile that tried to be confident and landed desperate. "Qiao," he said, as if my presence confirmed his importance. "You came." I knelt, picked up one diamond between my fingers, and let the light catch it. The cut was flawless. The stone was real. I stood and helped Yun Li up, my hand steady against her elbow, and positioned her behind me like a shielded asset. Then I faced Cheng Yu and the replacement girl. "You," I said to the replacement, tone polite. "Are you invited?" "I don't remember you from school." The replacement girl lifted her chin. "I'm Cheng Yu's girlfriend," she declared. Cheng Yu immediately stepped half a pace away from her, as if distance could erase association. It would have been funny if it weren't pathetic. He spread his hands and said, loud enough for the room, "Yun Li is lying. She's pretending she married Jiang Han to make me jealous. She's always been like that. She can't live without me." Some classmates laughed nervously, as if being uncertain absolved them. Yun Li's eyes narrowed. "You're insane," she said, voice steady despite the tremor of anger. Cheng Yu pointed at her broken necklace. "If it's real," he scoffed, "call him. Bring him here. If Jiang Han shows up, I'll kneel and apologize and pay double. If he doesn't," his smile turned ugly, "you crawl to the door and bark like a dog for everyone." The comment stream went feral. "He said it. He's done." Husband enters now. The replacement girl smirked and added, "And her bag is obviously fake. This logo is wrong." She lifted her heel and stomped on the bag like cruelty was a sport. My jaw tightened. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. That bag, I said, is custom ordered. If your eyes can't recognize craftsmanship, that's not the bag's fault. I held up 6 fingers, then added 2 more with a smile. 8 digits in our currency. The room inhaled as one. The replacement girl's face cracked. No way, she said, loud because denial is easier than shame. If it's real, I'll kneel. I glanced at Cheng Yu. Your girlfriend makes a lot of promises, I said. Will you fulfill them for her? Or do you only promise when you think you're winning? Cheng Yu's lips twitched. He tried to regain control by turning his gaze to my neck, where a silver chain lay. You still wear it, he said, triumphant. The necklace. The initials. You never forgot me. I touched the pendant and laughed softly. Oh, I said. This? I tilted it so the engraving caught the light. This isn't your initials. I looked around the room, enjoying the way attention sharpened. It's the name of my dog, I said sweetly. He's black, old, and far more loyal than you. A stunned beat passed, then laughter burst from multiple corners like a dam breaking. Cheng Yu's face drained, then turned the color of boiled shrimp. The comment stream screamed, delighted. His white moonlight is a dog name. Iconic. Script shattered. Yunli took a slow breath, then spoke with the clear precision of someone used to labs and evidence. You damaged my property and assaulted me, she said. This venue has cameras. I will pursue legal action. Prepare compensation. Cheng Yu's arrogance wavered, replaced by a flicker of panic. He tried to shift blame to the replacement girl, then tried to shift blame to Yunli, then tried to shift blame to fate. It was the same pattern as always. He never owned the consequences, only the fantasy. A deep voice cut through the room like steel. Who, it asked, calm and lethal, called my wife useless? The ballroom doors opened. Security entered first, then a man in a dark suit, posture straight, expression unreadable in the way powerful men train themselves. Jiang Han walked in as if the floor belonged to him. The comment stream erupted with near-religious fervor. Husband arrives now. Face slap activated. Cheng Yu froze, eyes wide, mouth working soundlessly, like a fish pulled from water. Jiang Han crossed the distance without haste. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. He reached Yunli, checked her cheek with a gentle thumb, and his gaze cooled by several degrees. You were supposed to be at the medical symposium, he said quietly, as if disappointed the world had inconvenienced her. Yunli's lips quirked. I took a wrong turn into a kennel, she replied, and I had to suppress a laugh. Jiang Han's eyes flicked over the broken necklace, the crushed bag, the crowd's guilty faces. Then his gaze locked onto Cheng Yu. You, he said, and the single syllable carried consequences. The replacement girl began to cry and collapse into apologies, grabbing at Cheng Yu's sleeve. Cheng Yu shook her off, too late to pretend loyalty. Jiang Han gestured once. Security moved. The replacement girl was escorted out, sobbing, mascara streaking, bargaining with words no one respected. Cheng Yu stepped back, hands raised. It's a misunderstanding, he said quickly. I didn't do anything. It was her. She's jealous. I'm innocent. The room watched the way people watch a car wreck, horrified, fascinated, relieved it isn't them. I leaned slightly toward Jiang Han and spoke in a tone that carried but did not perform. He promised to kneel and compensate double if you arrived, I reminded him, smile mild. I'm just curious whether he keeps promises in this timeline. Jiang Han's gaze didn't soften. Compensate, he said. Double. He turned to Yunli, voice gentler. Do you want to leave? Yunli nodded, exhaustion finally visible. I'm tired, she said. I want to go home. Cheng Yu's pride flared like a dying flame. Money? He snapped, trying to claw back status. You think money solves everything? I can surpass you. In my last life He stopped, because his own words tasted ridiculous now. He dug for his phone, calling an assistant, barking orders. Minutes passed. His face shifted from arrogance to confusion to terror. His accounts couldn't cover the number. The crowd began to murmur, like predators smelling weakness. Isn't he rich? Someone whispered. He wears expensive watches. Another said. Maybe he leases them. The old familiar social cruelty, sharpening its teeth. Jiang Han didn't gloat. He simply said, if the funds aren't transferred in 20 minutes, involve the police. It was not a threat, it was procedure. Cheng Yu's shoulders sagged. The male lead posture collapsed into something ordinary and small. He looked around the room as if searching for someone to save him, and for a heartbeat his eyes landed on me. Old habit. Assume the rich girl will rescue you. I met his gaze and let it slide off, uninterested. The comment stream, unusually quiet for a second, displayed one line like a verdict. No one is coming to save him this time. As Jiang Han guided Yun Li toward the exit, I stepped forward and raised a hand. Jiang Han, I said, businesslike. Before you leave 5 minutes. He paused, expression unreadable. Lin Qiao, he acknowledged. He knew my name. The city's circles were small and sharp. I gestured toward a side lounge. A conversation, I said, about something bigger than this mess. Yun Li studied me, then nodded. She's fine, she told him softly, meaning me and herself both. Let's hear it. In the private lounge, the air was quieter, cleaner. Outside, the ballroom drama continued like a cheap play. Inside, I set a slim folder on the table. Lin Group's biotech arm is entering phase 3 trials for a neurodegenerative treatment, I said. We need a partner with global logistics, compliance muscle, and patient access channels. Haoping has all 3. Yun Li has the research credibility and the clinical network. I'm offering a structure that protects everyone's interests and accelerates deployment. I slid the proposal across like a chess move. Jiang Han flipped pages without rushing. Yun Li read faster, eyes scanning with the practiced speed of someone who has lived inside data. This isn't a reunion impulse, Jiang Han said, tone neutral. You prepared this. I smiled. Preparation is my love language, I replied. Yun Li's mouth quirked. The IP protections are fair, she said, and the trial sites you list. You've done your homework. I nodded. I don't show up without a plan, I said. It's a character flaw. Yun Li set the folder down and met my gaze. I'll join as principal investigator, she said, if you guarantee patient-first ethics, not vanity metrics. The room's mood shifted, subtle but real, from negotiation to alignment. Jiang Han tapped the table once, then said, If my wife agrees, I agree. It was simple, decisive, and romantic in the way competent people are romantic. I extended my hand. Then we're done, I said. Cooperation. Yun Li took my hand first. Firm grip, and Jiang Han followed. The 3 of us sealed a partnership while Cheng Yu's fantasy burned out in the room next door. When we left the lounge, Cheng Yu was still there, still arguing with numbers, still trying to bargain with reality. Security had formed a quiet perimeter. A few classmates stared at me with a new kind of fear, as if they'd realized I wasn't a villainess, but a person who could rewrite contracts and reputations. I didn't enjoy their fear. I simply accepted it as consequence. Yun Li and Jiang Han exited together, protected by people who looked like they'd end careers without raising voices. I followed behind, not as an extra, but as myself. The weeks that followed were not a tidy epilogue. Cheng Yu borrowed money at brutal interest to pay compensation and avoid immediate arrest, which meant his company, already built on fragile timing and louder branding than substance, began to collapse. Employees demanded wages. Investors demanded answers. Cheng Yu demanded the universe apologize to him. He blamed the replacement girl, blamed Yun Li, blamed me, blamed his rebirth for not guaranteeing victory. His pride made him loud. His debt made him desperate. Eventually, the police came anyway, not for romance, but for embezzlement. The comment stream flickered a final time with bitter humor. He got a second life and still picked the same failures. Meanwhile, the partnership we signed moved fast. Yun Li's team refined protocols. My company secured manufacturing lines. Jiang Han's network opened channels across borders. We didn't call it female-led and villainous redemption. We called it work. In meetings, Yun Li and I argued bluntly, because respect between smart women often looks like conflict to people who prefer hierarchy. We fought over timelines, budgets, patient safeguards, and publicity strategy. Each fight ended with a better plan. Jiang Han watched us sometimes with amused patience, as if grateful the 2 women he trusted most were refusing to be reduced to romance. My family noticed the momentum. Success is a perfume that attracts both allies and thieves. At a quarterly board meeting, my grandmother tried to shift power toward my brother again, calling him steady and me too sharp. I placed the trial results on the table like evidence, then placed projected revenue and compliance reports beside them. Sharp, I said politely. is how you cut through dementia's timeline." The directors fell silent. My father's gaze held mine, and for the first time it looked less like evaluation and more like recognition. Lin Qiao smiled and pretended he was happy for me. His eyes were not. That was fine. I didn't need my brother's blessing. I needed the company to move. Months later, when our Phase 3 outcomes cleared the threshold with strong safety profiles, the market reacted like a storm. Stock rose, then rose again. Reporters called me the youngest executive in the region to lead a breakthrough partnership of that scale. Magazines asked about my love life, because the world still thinks women must be softened by romance to be digestible. I smiled into cameras and said, "My first love is logistics." And half the journalists didn't know whether I was joking. Yunli avoided interviews whenever possible and let her research speak. Jiang Han handled publicity with calm efficiency, never once claiming credit for his wife's work, which made him rarer than the diamonds on her broken necklace. I saw Yunli again on a rainy evening after a long meeting. We stood by the building's glass wall, city lights blurred by water. She touched her cheek absent-mindedly, where the faintest shadow of that reunion's bruise had long since vanished. "It's strange," she said quietly, "how people tried to turn my pain into a spectacle." I nodded. "They tried to do it to both of us," I replied. "They just chose different costumes." Yunli glanced at me, eyes thoughtful. "Thank you," she said, simple. "For what? For not taking the slot? For not letting Cheng Yu rewrite her victory? For walking into that ballroom? For treating her as a person instead of a plot device?" I accepted the thanks without ceremony, because gratitude is best respected, not milked. Later that year, a small scandal surfaced online. Cheng Yu had been in a traffic incident during an attempted getaway. It wasn't cinematic. It was ordinary tragedy caused by arrogance and fatigue. A screenshot of his motivational post circulated. He'd still insisted he could rise again and prove the future belonged to him. The internet laughed, then moved on, because it always moves on. The comment stream did not appear for that update. Maybe even hallucinated audiences get tired of men who refuse to learn. On the anniversary of the drug's approval, we hosted a quiet dinner in a private room. No cameras, no speeches, no forced sentiment. Yunli arrived in a simple dress, hair pinned neatly. Jiang Han held the chair for her without performing it. I arrived last, because I always arrive last when the room is safe. It lets me watch. We ate well and spoke about patience, about supply chains, about what we still needed to fix. At one point, Yunli lifted her glass toward me. "To refusing the script," she said. I clinked my glass against hers. "To writing our own," I answered. When I got home that night, I stood in front of my mirror and removed the silver necklace with the dog's name. My dog, a grumpy old rescue with more dignity than most executives, lifted his head from his bed and blinked at me. "You're still famous," I told him, and he yawned as if fame were a boring scent. I laughed quietly. In the hallway, my phone buzzed with messages. Investors, advisors, family members suddenly affectionate. The city loved winners. I let the phone buzz. Then I sat on the floor beside my dog and scratched behind his ears, because sometimes the only approval you need comes from something that doesn't care about your net worth. The floating comment stream never truly disappeared, but it changed. It stopped labeling me villainous. It stopped demanding that I be punished for refusing a man. It began to flicker on rare occasions with lines that felt less like entertainment and more like reflection. She didn't steal anyone. She just said no. The girls won without sacrificing themselves. It was almost funny how even imaginary audiences can evolve when confronted with reality long enough. Between graduation and that reunion, life filled the gaps the way water fills a riverbed. Quietly, persistently, and without asking whether the old stones liked being covered. Cheng Yu did not vanish from the world, because men like him rarely disappear. They simply change their stage. In his second year of college, the comment stream started feeding me updates like a news ticker. He launched a small trading group, then an e-commerce company, then a future tech startup with a name that sounded like it was generated by a marketing algorithm. He bragged loudly about being early in the right trends. Sometimes, for a few months, the trends even agreed with him. He bought a flashy watch, rented a sports car, hired a photographer to capture him pretending to work in cafes. His posts were full of phrases like destiny and timing and the universe rewarding courage. And the audience, real or imagined, cheered because they love watching confidence, even when it's hollow. I didn't follow him, but the city's gossip is like humidity. It seeps in through the smallest cracks. At events, I heard his name paired with mine, because people enjoy connecting a man's ambitions to a woman's refusal. "He used to chase you," someone would whisper, as if my no had been a flirtation. I learned to answer with the same line every time, mild as tea and just as effective. "I don't remember." The truth was I did remember. I remembered the way his eyes looked at crowds, not people. I remembered the way he treated Yun Li's effort like a currency he could spend. Remembering did not require me to keep him alive in my life. Yun Li's years were different. In university, she joined a neurobiology lab that smelled like disinfectant and coffee and stubborn hope. She published early, won grants, and learned to defend her ideas in rooms where older men spoke over her as a hobby. She told me once, over a late-night call, that the hardest part wasn't the work. It was resisting the quiet pressure to be grateful for being allowed into the room at all. I understood that pressure intimately. We were different girls, but the world offered us the same bargain: accept less and smile, or demand more and be called difficult. We both chose difficult. She met Jiang Han at a conference that ran overtime. He was there because his company funded clinical logistics and medical data infrastructure, and she was there because her research refused to fit into polite time slots. A senior professor tried to claim her results as team effort, and Yun Li corrected him with a calm that made the room colder. Jiang Han watched the exchange without interrupting. Later, when most people were chasing connections, he walked up and asked her one question. "If you had unlimited resources, what would you test next?" Yun Li told me she knew she could trust him because he didn't ask her to pitch herself. He asked her to dream larger, then offered concrete ways to build the dream. Their relationship grew like good engineering, quietly tested, reinforced, and designed to last. As for me, I spent those years learning how to be feared without becoming cruel. I learned the difference between being respected and being useful. One is earned, the other is assigned. When I returned from overseas study, my father placed me in a subsidiary that was supposed to teach humility. It was a polite punishment designed by men who don't understand that women like me were never made by comfort. I turned the subsidiary profitable in 9 months, then used the numbers as a ladder back into headquarters. My brother tried to congratulate me with a grin, as if my work was a party trick. I thanked him and kept climbing. The strangest part was the comment stream itself. After a year of pretending it didn't exist, I finally tried to investigate, because curiosity is another form of control. I visited a friend in our tech division and asked about augmented reality projects. He laughed nervously and admitted there had been an experimental overlay product, an AR social prediction filter, that could pull trending story archetypes from public data and display them in real time. Teenagers had tested it. The algorithm loved cliches because cliches are easy to predict. The project was shelved after privacy concerns, but prototypes leaked. I stared at him and asked, flatly, "Can it hallucinate roles like villainous?" He hesitated. "It can label patterns," he said. "It guesses narratives." I went home that night and realized the stream might not be magic at all, just a machine trained on lazy expectations. That discovery didn't make the comments less irritating, but it made them easier to ignore. A system that calls a girl evil because she refuses a boy is not a prophet. It's a mirror held up to society's worst habits. I requested the old project files, shut down remaining prototypes, and wrote a policy so strict that the board complained it would slow innovation. I smiled and said, "Good. Innovation without ethics is just speed running into a wall." In that moment, I felt something quietly satisfying. I wasn't only refusing a script in my personal life. I was refusing it structurally. By the time the reunion invitation arrived, Cheng Yu's company had grown large enough to attract small-time worship and fragile enough to be destroyed by one lawsuit. He had surrounded himself with people who echoed him, because echo chambers feel like love to insecure men. The replacement girlfriend was one of those echoes, a girl with the right face, the right makeup, and the wrong hunger. She wasn't a villain either. She was a symptom. When she stomped Yun Li's bag, she wasn't crushing leather, she was trying to crush proof that another woman had escaped the cage she was still decorating. I almost pitied her. Almost. A year after the drug approval, our old high school invited me to give a commencement speech as a distinguished alumna. The principal looked nervous the way adults do when they realize a teenager they once scolded now signs checks larger than the school's annual budget. I stood on the same courtyard where Cheng Yu had tried to trap me with flowers. The sunlight was gentler, and the students' faces were newer. I didn't mention him. I told them about boundaries, about studying with purpose, about choosing dignity over applause, and about walking away from any love that needs an audience to exist. After the ceremony, a shy girl approached with a notebook hugged to her chest. "Senior Lin," she whispered. "Is it okay to say no even if everyone watches?" I smiled, remembering the way a crowd can feel like a